Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Bros, and today we're going to be talking about The Bear by William Faulkner. Now, before I go into summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and/or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. So there's a lot of things happening within the short story by William Faulkner. A lot of things indeed. We follow Isaac. He's a very interesting individual. We're following him through the wilderness, through the woods. Throughout the story, we see him hunting this bear by the name of Old Ben. Old Ben is this bear that's like an ancient bear. He's like wild. He scares farmers. He ruins farmers' lives, and he's terrorizing a community. He lives in this place called the Bottom, where it's just like a woods-like area, and Old Ben is just roaming throughout this area, and also anywhere near it. Basically, a lot of people are scared of Old Ben. Dogs, mules. It's just a crazy, wild bear that nobody really wants to mess with. But Isaac, within this work, when the story starts off, he's like 10 years old, but he grows up with throughout this story from to just being a kid to becoming an expert woodsman, learning how to move around the woods, learning how to kill animals, hunt squirrels, hunt different types of animals, knowing how to move around the wilderness and not get lost. So he becomes an expert hunter, an expert tracker. There's also this kind of like a guide. Sam within the work. He's like the child of a mixed background, Indian slash um, enslaved woman offspring child that knows a lot about the wilderness and moving around nature. And Sam and Isaac, they definitely have a lot to say about nature and just reality in general. I mean, this short story is really rich and complex with everything that's going on within it, from talking about what was going on in the country with the Civil War in America, talking about race, talking about from enslaved people, white people, Indian people, how power, money, white power, and plantations and slave. I mean, there's so much things going on within this work. Isaac, he's this individual that he has it all. He has the family. He has property. Later that we learned that he even inherited a plantation that he wanted nothing to do with. Um, and throughout the work, I mean, he does hunt, old Ben, and ultimately they do kill the old Ben. The way that they do it is, Isaac, he trains this wild dog. He names it Lion, because Lion killed a horse at one point, and Isaac hunts the wild dog down. He names it Lion. He starves it for a while. Then he uses Lion to hunt down old Ben eventually, and Lion pretty much gets at the throat of Old Ben, and Old Ben claws at Lion, and ultimately, there's a hunting party that kills Old Ben, and Lion dies also, and also Sam dies within the story also, and they bury Lion and Sam next to one another, and Sam was the guide for Isaac throughout the work, and so it's really sad when we see him die. There's a lot of rich characters that appear within this work, and there's a lot to talk about. From Ben growing up, his parents dying when he was young, from him growing up in the wilderness, learning how to track, learning how to kill animals, learning how to hunt animals, to him finally killing old Ben with the help of Lion, this dog that he, in some way, kind of like trained. Well, not trained, but in some way domesticated, but not really. After old Ben dies, we see Isaac develop from talking about his place in the world and the relationship between enslaved people, and learning about his what his father, uncle, and grandfather did, and all the ugly things in their past, from from slavery, from the plantation, from their relationships and how they begot certain children, and there's certain relationships with some women, from enslaved women to things that his family did in the past, and how he didn't want to inherit their wealth at some point because he didn't want anything to do with the plantation that he inherited. So we see throughout the work Isaac growing up and everybody around him, and how they influenced him, and how the wilderness influenced him, and when he gets married, how his wife influences him, and even tries to have kind of like force him to get his inheritance. She even withhold sex from him so that Isaac would go back and get his family's inheritance. But Isaac is an interesting individual that we learn about throughout this work. From his upbringing, I mean, this is definitely a coming of age story. This little boy that kind of like grows up without parents, becomes an expert tracker, learns his way around the wilderness, and then makes up his mind about reality and the world, the big world around him, and how people can interact with one another, and how race and culture and society and nature, and how all of it says a lot about us as individuals and his place within the world. So, the hunting, the hunting of the bear, the you know just like the connection between the different characters within the work, and also how Isaac grows up, and the pressures of life, the reality of inheriting things from your family members, and learning about your family members and their past sins. It's a lot to take in. In terms of deeper meaning and analysis, I mean, this work, I mean, it does finish with the bear dying, which is, somewhat very interesting because in the beginning, Isaac was not an expert at anything. He was just a small little boy, but by the time the story's done, Old Ben is dead, Sam is dead, Lion is dead, and Isaac is much more smarter and wiser, and, um, and life goes on, and he has a lot to say about nature and life, and the relationship between black people and white people, and America, and the Civil War at the time, and how it impacted his community and the community that he grew up in. So I mean, there's a lot of things you can take from the story, about family, about learning about your heritage, your history, your family's sins, and how you can impact it, and how you can play a part in changing it. Isaac is definitely an individual that always thought for himself. Even as a child, when nobody thought that old Ben could be hunted or be killed, Isaac was always independent, and he was always going to hunt old Ben down and find a way to kill him or hunt him and win. So he's a very independent individual that makes up his own mind, and nobody can force him to do what he wants. Even his wife cannot force him to do what he wants. So he's a very interesting character, from kind of like not following in the footsteps of his family members, his father, his uncle, and his grandfather. He kind of like forges his own path, basically, through life. And in some ways, I have to say that Isaac is kind of like old Ben himself. He's like the bear himself, because Isaac, just like the bear, it's like a force of nature that's kind of like, it seems eternal, right? Isaac is the same way. Isaac is his own force, forging his own way throughout life, and making his own rules, and not following the ways of society, and viewing life how he wants to view it, and making it how he wants to make it. He didn't want to just rely upon the things that his family had built in the past, things that he doesn't agree with. He has his own moral compass, his own compass to think, and to make something out of his life that he wants to build. And he's not going to let anybody push him around. He's not going to let his wife push him around, or anybody push him around. So the character of Isaac is very interesting, and again, he's like an onion. There's lots of layers to him. Even when he was a boy, from being a boy all the way to an adult, Isaac is a very interesting individual to follow within this work. So that's my summary analysis of this work. Please remember to give a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.